Reman Cyrodiil, the worldly god, founder of the Reman dynasty, labelled as emperor by the Akaviri and one of the greatest legendary figures in Tamriel's history. Hello everyone, I am RedBeakRaven and welcome to the story of Reman Cyrodiil. So sit back and relax, watch and or listen as we dive into the story of the man who would set the foundations for both the Second and the Third Empire. Reman's story begins with a legend. In fact, a large portion of the Reman dynasty itself is shrouded in myth and conflicting reports, but Reman's legend tells us of how he came to exist. The legend goes that Reman was a child of the Colovian king Hrol, who had ventured from the lands of Lost Twill, seeking to mend the divided kingdoms of Colovia and Nibene, in an attempt to ward off the Akaviri invasion that had been foretold in a prophecy. The days prior to this event were dark indeed, for the First Empire of Cyrodiil was dead and the Amulet of Kings had been lost, with the people seeing no reason to try and find it. On his journey, King Hrol and his accompanying knights had found the spirit of Saint Alicia, the queen and founder of the First Empire. In her hand she bore the dragonfire of Akatosh and the Amulet of Kings. Upon seeing both her and the amulet, the king and his knights knelt before the spirit and prayed for all to be set right. But the spirit fled, and the company of men scattered among the hills and forests to find her. Eventually, Hrol and his shield thane found the spirit, and Saint Alicia took the physical form of a hillock, to which Hrol impregnated and died from his labours. Throughout the 9 months since that event, the mound of mud had grown into the legendary hill of Sankator. A small community of religious folk had gathered around the hill during its early days of growth, and one day a shepherdess named Sedyenna heard a cry from its peak. At the top of the hill, the shepherdess found an infant who wore the Amulet of Kings upon its forehead, and she named the infant Reman, meaning Light of Man. She then brought the infant Reman to the White Gold Tower and unhindered placed him on the Ruby Throne, where Reman then spoke as an adult, saying, "I am Cyrodiil come," and there and then, Reman became the ruler of Cyrodiil. There are other legends surrounding Reman in his early years that claim he single-handedly crushed a major revolt when he was 12, but by the age of 13 the Colovian kings all swore fealty to him. The truth to these legends continues to remain a mystery. Most scholars believe that these legends are nothing but propaganda for the Reman dynasty, and that Reman was actually the bastard son of a Nord named Hrol, who had died after copulating with the shepherdess Sedyenna. It is said that the shepherdess had carefully created the initial legend to ensure that at least some of the factions would support Reman being placed on the throne of Cyrodiil. However, the one thing that puzzles even the most devoted scholars on this subject is how the Amulet of Kings came to be in Reman's possession. If I were to argue this point, I would say that luck might have brought the amulet to either Hrol or Sedyenna, but then again, prophecies have a way of connecting all the dots together, as the prophesied Akaviri invasion was the main reason for Reman obtaining his legendary title. The second Akaviri invasion took place in 1E2703. The entire northern territory of Tamriel was under attack by the armies of the Serpentine Zayaci, a race of vampiric serpents that originated from the continent of Akavir, located east of Tamriel. What is commonly accepted amongst the people of Tamriel is that Reman Cyrodiil was a general of the Colovian West, and it was he who rallied the armies of the Nibene Valley to fight alongside his own Colovian legions in a fight against the most likely greatest foreign invasion in Tamrielic history. After the Akaviri swiftly cut through Skyrim and defeated the Nord armies blocking their way, Reman most likely feared that the Akaviri would end up marching on Cyrodiil, and therefore he persuaded the wayward human kingdoms that still existed from the previous empire to loan their armies to him and march against the Akaviri invaders. The war between Reman's armies and the Akaviri waged on in all of the northern regions of Tamriel. As part of his strategy to defend his homeland, Reman erected a large number of the old fortresses that were found all over Skyrim, and he used these as a protective shield against the invaders. All the fighting eventually led up to the battle that would end the war and bring the Akaviri into Reman's army. Some of you may already know of what battle I am about to speak of, and will probably also know the details of what happened. The Battle of Pale Pass is a fabled one, and the end result of that battle was Reman's first legendary victory. You see, Reman already knew that the Akaviri forces were commanded from a concealed imperial imperial fortress located in the Gerald Mountains. He focused all of his forces along the Pale Pass, which was an area found north of Bruma in Cyrodiil and southeast of Falkreath in Skyrim. It was also recently closed due to avalanches in the mountains which prevented the Imperials from securing the Falkreath hold during the Stormcloak Rebellion. The reason Pale Pass was such an important location to Reman was because he believed that the Akaviri would stage their attack from there. Eventually, Reman's belief was right, and his army stopped the Akaviri from advancing. Meanwhile, the armies of Morrowind, commanded by the false god Vivek, moved in to attack the Akaviri forces from behind, thus cutting off their reinforcements and supplies. If you're wondering why Morrowind suddenly came into this, because Morrowind wasn't part of the First Empire, therefore not being one of the factions that Reman was supported by, then it was due to the Akaviri trespassing in Morrowind that caused Vivek to aid Reman in his war against the invaders. So the Battle of Pale Pass was a short one. Upon hearing Reman Cyrodiil's voice, the Akaviri suddenly surrendered and they knelt before him, stating that it was he who they were seeking out. There and then they swore their loyalty to the great general and proclaimed him the legendary Dragonborn. And with that came an end to the second Akaviri invasion and the war that followed. Naturally, some may think that it was the end of the Akaviri invaders, despite their surrender and oaths of fealty, that they were imprisoned and executed or sent packing back whence they came. However, it was quite the opposite. Reman was impressed by their skill in battle and exotic weaponry, and he happily accepted the Akaviri into his ranks. What remained of the Akaviri forces were awarded amnesty in exchange for them serving in Reman's new personal army, known at the time as the Dragon Guard. Today, the Dragon Guard are known as the Blades, once the Emperor's personal bodyguards and agents serving only the Empire and its Emperor. Although the Blades were founded by Tiber Septim in the Third Era, their lineage can be traced all the way back to the Akaviri in the First Era. In more recent times, there's been talk of the Blades making a resurgence in Skyrim. They say that they've set up headquarters at an old Akaviri outpost in the province. I think the outpost in question is called Skyhaven Temple, but that place has been sealed up since the First Era and its location is not really known to many. But like I said, it's all talk. The reason for the Akaviri's sudden surrender at the Battle of Pale Pass was not because they were outnumbered and cut off from their reinforcements and supplies, it was because they had found what they were searching for, the Dragonborn. A unique individual who is born with the blood and soul of a dragon, but with a body of a mortal. Their power comes in the form of being able to naturally learn and speak the ancient and powerful language of the dragons, commonly known as the Thune. The Akaviri that invaded Tamriel during Reman's lifetime were mainly there to hunt and kill the dragons that fled from Akavir to Tamriel in the late years of the First Era. They also believe that this is where they could find the fabled Dragonborn warrior, and to their belief, they did just that. With the war over, Reman found himself ruling Cyrodiil, which was now responsible for protecting the northern kingdoms of High Rock and Skyrim, who were then weakened as a result of the invasion. Reman became determined to bring peace to the whole of Tamriel under his guidance and rulership. Despite being the ruler, he was never officially an emperor. It was only the Akavir that considered him to be so, but throughout his lifetime a coronation never took place. In the year 2704 of the First Era, Reman began to turn his attention towards the Reach and its wild occupants, the Reachmen. He split the Reach in half, with both High Rock and Skyrim taking a piece of the territory and splitting the region's mans between the two kingdoms. This hindered the Reachmen's ability to join forces and plot against him, plus armies from Evermore in High Rock and Solitude in Skyrim were sent quite often to try and tame the wild populace and show them a more sophisticated kingdom. Reman then began the process of conquest and expansion, leading to a stronger Cyrodiilic nation, but now the elves started to grow weary of Reman's human imperialism, and Reman too began to grow weary of the elves. In 1E 2714, the elven kingdoms of Valenwood fell to Reman's forces after being ruined by both the Thracian plague and constant warfare. The Cameron dynasty that once ruled over the province was deposed by Reman to ensure that the Bosmer would never again unite against his occupation, and Valenwood was split amongst the various independent tree thanes. A clever move it was overall, as it meant that the Bosmer would never again find a common enemy to unite against. Reman saw Valenwood as a little prize for his efforts, mainly because many thought of Valenwood as a wasteland province. You see, Valenwood had strict nature laws, therefore it had no traditional cities, so the only thing it had of any value to the Empire was its trade posts that were established by the Empire itself. At some point in Reman's lifetime, he took the surname name Cyrodiil, presumably to inspire a sense of pride and feel a deep connection to his people and Cyrodiil itself. Contrary to popular belief, Cyrodiil was not named after him. In fact, it was the Iliad name of the province that he adopted. Cyrod was to be his surname. As I mentioned earlier, Reman would never take the title of Emperor in his lifetime, but it was he who eventually established the coronation rites that the succeeding emperors would use, which also included the rituals that involved the Amulet of Kings. Little is known about Reman's life before the second Akaviri invasion, and even after occupying Valenwood, we still aren't sure about what other actions he may have taken towards his goal of pacifying Tamriel. I believe he also conquered the Somerset Isles, but what we do know is that he took a lot of time to plan both his and his successors' resting place. Reman built a magnificent tomb within the city of Sankator, in its ancient underpassages where he and his descendants and members of the Dragon Guard would be entombed. During the Reman dynasty's rule, Sankator was a strong city full of wealth and culture, but it quickly fell into decay after being abandoned, presumably when the Reman Empire crumbled. Reman Cyrodiil ruled over the Second Empire up until his death in the year 1E 2762. It is unknown what actually caused Reman's death, but it could be assumed he died from old age, as although his birthday is lost to history, we do know that he ruled the Empire for 59 years, so you could take a guess that he defeated the Akaviri horde when he was in his 20s at least, which would put him at the minimum age of 79 at the time of his death. It is believed that he was succeeded by his son Castav, but Reman's story does not end with his death. In the time following his death, Reman began to be worshipped as a cultural god hero. He was loved as a grand conquering deity and was given the names the Cyrodiil or the Worldly God. Reman's efforts in founding a new empire could be seen as a factor towards the creation of the Third Empire, famously known as the Septim Empire. Tiber Septim, or Talos, could have essentially inherited the empire that Reman and his descendants had created, after conquering the provinces of course. Today, Reman's tomb may still be found at Sankator, although I believe the last person to visit the great ruler's final resting place was none other than the champion of Cyrodiil in 3E 433, the year of the Oblivion Crisis. I've even heard of a stone door to one of the Akaviri's temples in Skyrim where Reman's face is sculptured into it. That would indeed be a sight to see. Maybe this is the temple that I've been hearing about where the blades have made a resurgence. Who knows, maybe some great and powerful adventurer out there knows of such a place. Maybe they've even seen it. But we now come to the end of the story of Reman Cyrodiil, a great hero of the Akaviri trouble and a clever ruler, one worthy of the title Conqueror God. So that concludes the story of Reman Cyrodiil. Thank you for watching or listening, or even both for that matter. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Reman Cyrodiil and the Second Empire. What other rulers of Tamriel interest you? Let me know all your thoughts, well maybe not all of them, but your thoughts related to this. Hit the like button if you like this video and the Story of series. I've actually done 2 other character story videos you may be interested in. You can find the links to those in the card that appears on the screen right now. You can also follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook. You'll find the links near the bottom of the description. Anyways, that's all from me, so until next time, I'll see you soon.